Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining our webinar here today. We'll get started in just a few minutes, but I'm going to give everyone a chance to get started and get on. But yeah, thanks for coming. If you don't know who I am, my name is Marissa, and I'm a marketing manager here at Kangarootime. So I'm normally behind the scenes on all of our webinars and stuff like this. You've probably heard my name mentioned once or twice before. So I'm very excited to have Ruth Ann Rose and her team from Rose Marketing Solutions here today. They're an amazing partner of ours. They specialize in marketing for early childhood education businesses like you guys have. So we're really excited to hear from them and have them share their expertise today. So before we get started, I'm just going to share a little bit about Kangarootime in case you guys are new. So we are a software company for childcare centers, and we make a world-class platform. We're really devoted to you guys and just work on developing the best product that we can. So in addition to our software, we also host these webinars and provide a lot of extra content through our blog. You'll probably see quite a few articles from me. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Jessica. Nice to see you guys. But I'm going to share that link in the chat so you guys can check that out. And additionally, we also host an event every year. If you haven't heard, we host a Bounce conference here in Buffalo, and we're very excited to welcome Rose Marketing back again as another sponsor. So that'll be super fun. It's 2 days full of content, networking, events, everything here in Buffalo, July 18th to the 20th. So please grab your tickets before they sell out. It's going to be a really, really fun event. Here's the link for that so you can join. And just a few announcements before we let them take it away. You guys will get certificates in your follow-up email tomorrow, along with the recording. And we cannot see or hear you. Your microphones are off, your cameras are off. So no need to worry about anything there. But if you do have questions, we're more than happy to answer them. Either put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and then I'll answer them, or Ruth Ann and her team will answer them at the end of their presentation. So yeah, I'm very excited to welcome Rose Marketing. Ruth Ann Rose is the owner and CEO. They are a marketing agency that specializes in various strategies and solutions. They have a wide range of experience, especially when it comes to childcare businesses. So they're going to be sharing their expertise on building a digital brand, and it's important. So thank you guys so much for coming. And yeah, we're excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Marissa, for having us on the webinar today. As a digital marketing agency specializing in filling classrooms of childcare centers, one of the foundational starting places that we have is assisting our clients with their self-awareness of their digital brand. Most of our work for clients is centered around a childcare's digital presence. So that'll be most of what we emphasize today. We know that a strong digital brand promise creates a desire in parents to learn more about your school, and also begins to give them that assurance to your enrolled and prospective families and staff that they're going to feel welcome and have peace of mind when they're with you. Now at Rose Marketing, everything we do is a team. So I did want to bring 2 key team members with me today. I thought it was only fitting that I bring along Rashad Pitts, who is our Director of Digital Advertising, and also Lillian Rose Lively, who's our creative lead. So they're going to, again, be part of this discussion. And again, we love working as a team, and so I love having them with me today. Now, we know first impressions matter, and they really do matter. A first impression is based on early perceived information, and a first impression really influences how we interpret and remember information later. So it is absolutely true that you don't get a second chance for that first impression. So when it comes to a brand, a first impression really influences how a prospective family or staff member perceives their experience, what it's going to be like with you. So the example of a warm and welcoming home or front porch gives that impression that you as a homeowner, you really expect people and want people to come to your door. You get a sense that the people within this house, which is a good example, really do have a pride in how they welcome guests and families. Of course, it feels safe, it feels secure. And so I really challenge you to today, go and stand in your parking lot and look at your school, stand in your lobby, stand in front of each classroom, stand on the playgrounds, and really get a sense, a fresh sense with fresh eyes of what people experience when they're visually in front of your school. Most time we're all just so busy going day to day that you really do need to stop and put some fresh eyes on that experience and really understand how things look, feel, and smell. Does the physical experience match what you really want your brand to represent? Now, again, most of what we're talking about today is going to be digital, but you just can't forget that physical element. So when we're talking about digital presence, you're sometimes going to wonder, where do I begin? The digital world is just getting bigger and bigger, and there's more opportunities for your school to have another front door. And what I mean by front door is every single place that your school appears on the internet is another front door to your school. It's a possible place where people might find you. So I always want to talk about when you're looking for a place to start, I tend to say, hey, Google your school, start a spreadsheet. Any place that your school shows up on the internet, save that link in your spreadsheet and then go back with your team and really examine all those places that you appear. Is your website correct? Is your phone number correct? Do you have current pictures? Again, really try to strengthen that first impression because it is so important. You may not be aware of it. Surely you are, but you may not. There are sites that go and grab your information and display it. And so you need, again, the spreadsheet to help you find those places that have information about you so that you can go back and claim those listings. Those listings might be places like Winnie.com. Of course, you're on Facebook, your Google page, your Yelp. But again, you want to go look at those places, make sure you have the ability to go and change the content. And of course, update all that information just to strengthen that first impression. So we're going to talk now a little bit more about the 4 keys to building a successful childcare brand. And that first concept is going to be handled by Lillian, who's going to talk to us about branding. So Lily, we'll let you take it away.
Well, hi there. As Ruth Ann said, my name is Lillian Rose Lively, and I am creative lead here at Rose Marketing. So I handle a lot of the visual and creative aspects of branding. So I kind of want to talk about that. I know that branding is the overarching topic today, but I want to talk to you about how the visual aspect of your brand can be a good representation of your school. So when I look at these 2 pictures, right off the bat, I feel like we're looking at 2 different schools, right? 2 very different schools, because as we know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So these 2 schools might be equal in quality, equal in programming, equal in offerings, all of that. But if I saw the top photo on a website, or I walked into a school and it looked like that, or I saw it on Facebook, that might raise a couple red flags for me, right? I might think I'm seeing a lot of clutter, mess. I'm not seeing a lot of structure. I'm not seeing interactions between students. Whereas this bottom picture really communicates the enjoyment that the students are having. And I would perceive the school as cleaner, higher quality, more fun, more engaging. And that's why it's so important to keep an eye on how we're portraying ourselves visually. Because a lot of the times the visuals do talking for you that you may or may not want them to. So we have to make sure they're saying what you want it to say. So what is your brand and why does it matter? Well, your brand is your opportunity to set the stage for your school, what your school is, and the quality of your care. A strong brand is going to stand out in a crowded marketplace and could be the difference between a parent choosing your school or another one. It's going to make your school more memorable, more marketable, and it gives the idea that your school is an established, reputable brand in your community. And that's really what we're all after, right? Especially for those of you who might have multiple locations. It's really important to continue that brand consistency across all of your locations because that's what's going to build your reputation and help you as you grow. And what I like to say is a brand is a promise of what people get when they get you. And that's your calling card. It's your digital storefront, like Ruth Ann was saying. So who are we talking to? That is a huge part of this, right? Our message is going to change depending on who our audience is. And I think often we think my audience is prospective families. I want butts and seats, right? I want a wait list, I want enrollment, all of that. But there's some other audiences to consider as well. One of the biggest ones is enrolled families. Remember that the majority of people who are looking at your website, reading your emails, following you on social media are enrolled families. And retention is just as, if not more important than enrollment, right? And if you, like a lot of schools right now, are struggling with hiring, prospective staff is going to be one of your audiences as well, and someone that you need to remember that you're speaking to. Because if I'm looking to apply to work at a school, I'm going to look online and see, is this somewhere I would want to work? Is this a fun and engaging workplace? And then of course your current staff is the other audience that you're speaking to. You want to communicate your brand on all these platforms for your current staff as well, because a good brand can be a source of morale and commonality, and can take your school from just a workplace to like a family, and be something that they could represent themselves and be proud of. So we talked about the what we're saying and how we're going to say it, or we talked about how we're going to say it and who we're going to say it to, right? But what do we want to say? What do we want to communicate with those visuals? So there are a few questions I would recommend asking yourself. And I know some of these are going to seem repetitive, but asking ourselves the same question in different ways can often yield different answers and provide more insight. So the first one is, what's your story? What's this? Why did you come into this market? Why are you passionate about childcare and education? And what's your mission statement? What's your core values, right? These are things that should probably be written out on your website, and are really guiding forces in this process. What's your reputation in the community? What do the parents in the community have to say about you? What does your current staff have to say about you? What are you seeing in those 5-star reviews? Where do you fall in the market around you? You know, what's your position in that market? Know what your reputation is. And if it's not great, that's something that we can work on and that we'll talk about later in the presentation. All of this is really important, and especially what you do differently than your competitors, right? What sets you apart? What unique offerings you have? What are ways that you can set yourself apart from the rest of the rest of the market? So we've covered who you're talking to and what you're trying to communicate, right? But what people often underestimate is how much visuals convey importance and convey meaning. And as a graphic designer, this is kind of my bread and butter. So when I look at something like this, the only thing I have conveying importance here is that it's bold, right? But it's all bold. So I don't really know the hierarchy of what's more important to look at. What do I need to know quickly? I have no idea. This doesn't convey any sort of memorable visual that I could associate with the brand. It's just information, right? But if I were to take this information and tweak it just a little bit, add some color, change the weight of some things, add in some part of my logo, I immediately know what I'm supposed to know, which is Woodland Academy. And that's the name of the school. So the next thing I'm going to see on this is the website. That's the next most important piece of information, right? Because that's where I can go to get all of the information I need. And then I also do have that contact information still for the people who are really ready to act when they see this. But I have the most important information first. And this is something called hierarchy of information that's big with graphic design. So how does this all work in practice, right? How do we take this wall of text and make it into a beautiful and understandable, quick piece of visual communication? Well, the real key is going to be a brand guide. And I'm sure a lot of you have one. I'm sure some of you don't. And this one is just a little one-pager. This is what I like to call it a cheat sheet. But often this can be up to a 20-page PDF with every possible iteration of how you should use every possible element. But really, this little cheat sheet is kind of the minimum that I expect a school to have. So on this, what you have is the primary and secondary logo, and you might have more versions than that, but it's for different scenarios. And then I have a sample of how the text is going to interact together. Remember that hierarchy of information. I know that a header looks like this, a subheader looks like this, etc. I also have more details on how to use those fonts at the bottom. I have the colors. Normally the codes for digital, web, and print would also be here. And then I have the graphic elements that go with this brand, these little woodland animals. So this is something that I would share both internally with your staff for when they're making things in Canva or on anything else, so that they know these are the fonts we're using, these are the colors we're using, and so that they can really create consistent materials. But it's also more importantly for vendors, right? Because vendors are not in your school seeing everything that you're doing every day and all the materials that you're using. So you can send them something like this and they can quickly see this is the approved design I can use. And so this is your guide to make sure that all of your materials are clean, consistent, and recognizable, right? This is the hallmark of your brand at a glance. So this is where consistency really comes in. So here's an example of that last brand guide in practice. Here's an email, a website, and a form that are all using the same brand guidelines, right? And so the benefit of that is if I were a parent and I were enrolling in your school, maybe the first thing I saw was your website because I Googled you. I might not notice it consciously if I'm not a designer, but I get the impression of it, right? I might remember, oh, they have these little woodland animals, or I like the fun colors or the fonts, whatever. And then when I go to submit an inquiry on the website, I might get an email that features the same look. And then I have that consistency. And then maybe I come in and enroll, and the packet that I'm given looks like the website. It looks like the email. And so what that's communicating to the parent is that you are a consistent and reliable company and a consistent and reliable source of care and quality for their child, which is huge, right? Your brand is the biggest marker of quality that you have before someone can actually set foot in your school and see that care for themselves, right? And like when you think about the difference between a generic brand or a premium brand at the grocery store, you can't taste or feel the product before you buy it. The only thing you have to go on is that label, that box, that packaging, right? Think of all of this as the packaging that your school is in before people can actually experience the product themselves. And that's how we're going to communicate that you're committed and that you're reliable and that this is ongoing and that parents can trust you with their child. So we talked a little bit about staffing earlier as well. And so it's important to also bring that brand in a larger sense into the hiring process, right? So this is some information on how you can do that on your website mostly. And it's featuring your culture, really showing that this is a fun place to work and the welcoming team that already exists on your Our Team page. And try to add convenience wherever you can. This goes for parent forms as well, but make them easy to use, remove the barrier of entry, and make it really easy to submit the application. And then survey your teachers and find out what they love about work so that you can put that in your job description and in your hiring page and on your team, so you really know the culture that people are signing up for. And you as owners and directors can't be in every interaction with a parent or with a student. And so you have to make sure that the people you're hiring are also conveying that message that you want to convey. And so to sort of summarize this section, it's really important that you take the visuals we've talked about and live up to them, bring your center up to them, to that standard, and make sure that the experience they have from submitting an inquiry, from Googling you, all the way to enrolling and being at your school is a consistent experience that's in keeping with your brand, right? And that's where you come in. It's up to you to maintain the brand experience when they actually walk in the school. So that's everything from the front desk, phone calls, emails, signage, social media, your website, parent interactions, all of that is part of your brand. So I'm going to pass it over to Ruth Ann, who's going to talk about another aspect of your brand, which is your website. Ruth Ann, you are muted.
That is one of my brand consistencies, is I tend to forget about mute. Sorry about that. Thank you, Lillian, for your insight. So now we begin to discuss key 2, as Lillian mentioned, which is your website. And is your website ready for visitors? You know, your website is one of the ways that you do convey your brand's expertise and authority and trustworthiness. So be sure that you go through each page of your website to make sure that the pages have the content that a parent would expect to see there. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have an example of a blog page with no blog content. So if you perhaps at one point were putting menus on your website and then you have forgotten to go and update it, or if you used to put newsletters on your website and you haven't updated those in a while, or if you have a blog page with no blogs, again, these are all just simple interactions where a parent is landing somewhere expecting to have an experience, and then that experience either isn't up to date or leaves them with questions. So if you have certain pages of your website where you are not putting content on it, you know, you can turn those back into draft mode and not even have that be an option. But more importantly, it would be better to go and update those pages. If you know you can't do your menu page consistently, then maybe do something more evergreen, like a sample of a menu. And that way you don't have to change it. But again, we're just trying to make sure that people have a great experience. When we do overall look at your website, we do want it for you to think about it as being an extra salesperson. Your website should answer lots of questions that someone has about your school, so that when they do make that phone call or do walk in, they're already pretty much pre-sold and they know what to expect. Now, the top 5 pages that we know parents are going to go look at typically are the top 5 that you see here listed. So your homepage, you always want to be sure you have some kind of geographical information. So when they first get to that homepage, they know right away, is your school located in an area where it's convenient for their route to work, or is it close to their home? You know, we need to make sure they recognize where you're located. Also, this probably goes without saying, but, is all the school information correct? Have you changed your phone number? Is the address appearing correctly? Just go and check those. Also, program pages, curriculum advantages. We really want you to stand out. And so if you're doing something special, say you're doing something special. If you offer certain types of programs that are really good for different developmental ages, brag on yourself. This is your opportunity to do that. Now, tuition, there's two schools of thought, right? Some schools want to put their pricing on their websites and some don't. Either way has merit. I think my big thing that I would implore for you to do is to make sure you list everything that's included in your tuition. That way, when a parent is looking at more than one school, they're getting a true picture of the cost and how one school is different from another because of what's included in that tuition. So I just want to be sure that you don't forget to do that. We also want to make sure you take advantage of things such as Google Analytics. Google Analytics can tell you when you set a date range, what pages of your website get the most traffic and when those pages get the most traffic and when that traffic starts to taper off. So why is that important? Well, we all know in childcare, you're going to experience different peak seasons for enrollment, such as summer camp and back to school. So if you want to go look at Google Analytics, this will probably verify for you what you already know to be true when the phone calls start ringing for certain programs. But it wouldn't hurt to go look at Google Analytics and just, get confirmation of this. I bring this up because the time to update your summer camp page is not at the peak of traffic. It is a few months before. We want to be sure that people who are looking early see the information, they have a chance to enroll early, which of course helps you. But again, you just want to be present with the information before the traffic really starts accumulating. You want those early lookers to have that chance to see it. So really with that, I'm going to pass it over to Rashad, and he is going to lead us through the next key, which is map listing.
Thank you so much, Ruth Ann. I am Rashad Pitts, and I'm a strategist, right? I think data gets me going, right? So with that, key number 3 to building a successful childcare brand is your map listings, right? Why is this important? Why is this even relevant to branding, right? When we consider the journey a parent may take, there's a few ways they can learn about you. One major way is Google and or your map listings. More than 3.5 billion searches are made on Google daily, and it's only increasing. Right? And about 46% of these have local intent. So think about preschool near me, preschool and zip code, right? Those type of searches. So the question I ask when they find you, what do they see, right? So let's consider these examples. When you look at these two listings, immediately there's a disconnect. These are both for preschools, right? This leaves all interpretation up to the parent and open the door up to assumptions, right? So the example on the left, minimal to no images, just an empty parking lot. That is a massive missed opportunity there, right? When we think about the listing on the right, I'm not sure if I want the first thing a parent to think about when they think about my school to be the flu, right? The image here says the flu wants you. That's what the image says, right? This is not ideal when we consider first impressions, but these are real examples. These aren't made up examples, right? So I know these are kind of extreme, but I want you to think of these listings as your digital storefront again, right? So we keep kind of touching on that digital storefront aspect, right? This is an extension of your brand. It's an extension of your culture, your values, right? And the question I would encourage you to ask yourself is, do your listings reflect your school the way you intend them to? Remember, your brand is an experience. Now, let's show the other side of the spectrum, right? In contrast, what do these listings say about these schools? Warm, welcoming, clean, attention to detail, safe, right? And if I actually may highlight one item on this slide, referring to the example on the right, if I may ask the room, if you have an iPhone, can you type 1 in chat for me? Okay, I see the ones coming in, I see the ones coming in. So with that in mind, take note of this, please take note of this. The example on the right is an Apple Maps listing, right? And I have seen a wide range of schools, too many to count, where their Apple Maps listing is inconsistent, unclaimed, and or low quality. Why? Apple Maps, they currently pull their information from third-party directory sources, right? So basically directories in their database, Yelp being one of them, where Apple Maps, they'll pull the photos and reviews currently from Yelp. So if your Yelp listing is inaccurate, there is a good chance, a very good chance, your Apple Maps listing is also inaccurate, right? So that's simply food for thought. Be sure you are showcasing your quality and just take a look at these for your particular schools. On that note of kind of just quality, right? Another way to showcase your quality, your story, your brand is through your reputation, your reviews, right? When we looked at some key stats and data of reviews and reputation of what actually users look at when it comes to reviews, the obvious ones being positive experience, high ratings, recent reviews, right? Where over 50% of users stated that these are items they pay attention to, right? But the metric I actually want to highlight here is the third item of, are you responding to your reviews? And not only if you are responding to your reviews, but how are you responding to your reviews, right? Both good and not so good reviews. What is the tone? Is it welcoming? Does it showcase positive conflict resolution? Is it inconsistent? Is it defensive? Is it accusatory, right? Are your responses more generic? Are they empty of that personal connection, right? These details may seem minor, but massive when we consider a parent's decision of trusting you with care. Right? You have to consider these little details, and kind of through those questions, I want to encourage you to think beyond reviews, but towards what is your reputation, right? So to be clear, make sure you're responding to your reviews, create a steady flow of new reviews. And as a side note, consider shifting verbiage from leave us a review to share your experience, right? This little adjustment, it now allows your parents to become your brand ambassadors, right? This allows them now to highlight areas of your brand, your culture, their experiences, your promise, right, of how you're actually providing peace of mind, right? So to be clear, the biggest takeaway from this is that a lot of your traffic to your website and inquiries will come from your map listings. This is from all the data that I look at, right? So two things: make sure you have an understanding of what you look like, and make sure you have a plan of how to actually optimize that, right? And in this particular example of what's kind of just shown on the screen, this is one way in which your parent's going to find you, right? They're typing in that local intent query, preschool or daycare near me, right? And you'll notice in this visual that the maps portion takes up a lot of real estate. You'll also notice that the ability to filter based off of reviews has gotten so much easier for the user. Google is now conforming to making the experience easier for the user. So if you're not paying attention to your listing, your reviews, your star rating at all, you are missing out on a lot of opportunity, right? And your brand most likely is misrepresented online, right? And I'm saying this not only from like a theory standpoint, but from all the data that I look at for all the schools that we work on. Your map listings gets a lot of traffic, right? So simply put, stay on top of your reviews, your reputation, refresh your photos, and ensure you have make sure you have consistent information across the board, right? This is also, I guess, more so Google, Apple Maps, but even consider the Yelp and the other directories as well. So I challenge you with two things. After this webinar, please go back and take a look at your Google Maps listing, take a look at your Apple Maps listing in particular, and optimize, right? Also consider taking a look at your Yelp listing, because it will feed into your Apple Maps and other childcare related directories like the Winnies of the world, right? And optimize, okay? At the end of the day, we all know that this decision for a parent may not be the easiest to make, right? Of extending their trust, placing their child in someone else's care, right? So make that decision easier for them as you take more control of your first impression. And with that, I would love to segue it over to the next key, which is going to be social media.
Well, hello again. I am going to speak about social media. And as we all know, social media is important. We all know this. 83% of 18 to 49-year-olds are on social media. They're scrolling the height of the Statue of Liberty every day, and they're spending an average of 2.5 hours or more on social. So we know that your market's there, right? But what does your social media say about your school? A lot like your map listings, when's the last time you went and looked at your social media on sort of a holistic level and saw, what is this saying about my school, right? So on the example on the left, it's really not branded, right? The username, I've blocked out some of it, but I wanted you to see that it's just daycare, right? There's some numbers after it, and that's about it. The name is just daycare. I have no idea where the school is. I have no idea what their website is. I have no idea how to get more information. Where the example on the right, I have their logo I've blocked it out, but their logo in the profile picture, their name is their username, it's their profile name, it's in their bio. Their bio is their mission statement, communicating that brand. And then they have their website. So I know immediately how to get in touch with these people, what they stand for, all of that. And then all of that is represented visually as well in their posts. So we've talked about map listings in Google, and those usually have a little bit of higher intent, where social is a bit more passive. You might be window shopping. It allows parents to go up to the window and like take a peek inside the school before they take a tour or come in, right? We're trying to communicate expertise, authority, trustworthiness, really just wanting to give parents peace of mind, right? And the number one question we get from owners about social is, what should I even be posting, right? You know, you're supposed to be posting, you know that your market's there. But it's hard to come up with those ideas, right? So here's just some jumping off point ideas for what you could post. Friendships between students. We love to see the smiling, happy faces and hugs and all of that and playing together. Curriculum highlights, tell us why your curriculum is so stellar and how it sets you apart from your competitors and why it's so great developmentally. Staff shout outs and culture highlights. This hits all 4 audiences, right? We've got we're showing staff and prospective staff how much we value them, and we're showing parents how much we value our staff and how excellent our staff is, right? Community involvement. If you're having a donuts with dad day or a mother's tea or bringing in the fire department, that's all excellent to highlight, right? Show your community connection and how strong it is. And then generally, what sets your school apart? We kind of talked about that in my first section. It's important to know what your differentiators are from your competitors and really highlight those, because that's going to be the thing that really makes decisions. And then, of course, nutritious meals and snacks. We love food pictures on social media. That's been true for all of time. And parents want to know that their kids are well fed and eating nutritious food, right? So some helpful hints just to make social a little easier, because I know it can be kind of daunting. Canva is your best friend. I really would encourage you guys, check out your map listings, as Rashad has said, but also take any brand information you have and load it into Canva's feature called Brand Kit. If you haven't already, you can put your logos, fonts, colors, all in there to make making on-brand graphics a breeze. Oh no, we need to close for inclement weather today. I can whip something up so quick in my fonts and colors with the logo, and someone on the front desk could do that, or the director can do that in a snap, right? The other thing we really recommend is pre-scheduling your content. Everyone's very busy, right? And it can be really frustrating to have to drop everything and post something in the middle of the day because you're like, oh, we haven't posted this week, right? Pre-schedule it. You can do that in Canva directly from making the post. Or you can do it in Facebook's Creator Studio. But if you pre-schedule at least some of your posts, then they're going up and you can kind of set it and forget it. I wouldn't totally forget it, because you do want to keep an eye on how the community is interacting on your post and make sure, just like reviews, that you're replying to comments. And especially if anything negative comes up, you definitely want to address that. And then the last thing I'll say is consider supplemental social posting services. So that's something that agencies like us can help with, where we can get those sort of brand awareness posts out there for you on an ongoing basis, just to sort of supplement your organic posting and really answer those questions that parents are looking for, frequently asked questions, testimonials, that kind of thing. And a few reminders as a wrap up on social media. Feature your culture. That's going to hit all 4 audiences, as I'm saying. Really show what makes your school great, both for staff and for parents. Know your audience, as we've definitely talked about today, and stay consistent. Post regularly, stay on brand. I also really encourage you to designate who will and won't post on social media, and be careful about that and say, this is the person who does that, or have the people who do it communicate with each other so they're not both posting about the same thing or getting in each other's, and then make it beautiful. As much as we'd love to see you post every day or multiple, a few times a week, quality is always going to trump quantity. And so we want to keep things on brand, use high quality photos, all of that. So I will pass it back to Ruth Ann to sort of wrap things up.
Thank you, Lillian. Those are great thoughts about social media, and they do, in fact, emphasize your brand promise. Well, we hope these 4 keys, gave you a starting place to look at your brand and your brand promise with fresh eyes. And I really hope it gave you some ideas of how your customers experience your brand promise. So Marissa, as always, thank you for letting us be on today. Our team has such a passion for possibilities, and we're so thankful you gave us this opportunity to help childcare owners to see the possibilities of how to build their brand and to be part of something bigger, of reaching out to large audiences. So thank you again, Marissa, for this time.
Thank you guys. That was awesome. Yeah, I know, obviously I'm in marketing, so I know how important it is, but sometimes it can get stuck on the wayside with everything else going on. So I think these were some great actionable strategies that you guys can take back to your centers, and they'll really have a lasting effect on your business. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat of the Q&A. If not, you can always reach out to Rose Marketing Solutions at their website or Ruth Ann directly, and they'll definitely be able to help you out if you need a little bit of an extra marketing expertise. But other than that, oh, thanks, Lynn. Yes, they are amazing. Thanks for joining us.
We love you too.
So with that, we can wrap it up, and I will share the recording with you all tomorrow so you can look back on this. And thank you guys so much again for joining, and we can't wait to have you back again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.